Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tech Ranch. My name is Marv Dorner, filling in for the Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson, who is now with us today. I'm sure he's just out running around. He's got things to do. He's a busy guy.
Family business.
Family business,
Yep.
and that's all you can hope for sometimes. But joined in studio by Mr. Jim Walsh.
Hello.
Running the ones and twos, the
Oh,
DJ
yeah.
over there. And we're also going to be joined in a little bit by Robin Wright. I'll get her introduced here in a second. Sounds like spring finally sprung. It's the first week of spring.
Well, you wouldn't know it coming in this morning.
It's allergy
it was
season.
kind of nippy.
That's why you're getting the wisp of a Hall's cough drop flowing through the.
Yeah, you can look at the
studio.
radar and see it flying right up your nose.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long day thanks to
Yeah.
allergy season, but
But the nights are still kind of nippy.
they are. And that's not going to change. They lied today. My weather app yesterday said 61. We're not going to make 61,
No,
I don't think. So we'll do what we can. But to brighten everything up and to warm things up, we're going to bring in Robin Wright. Robin's been been blogging at robinsworld.com since 2008. She talks about just about everything. There's a technology, there's personal stuff, there's food, a little bit of everything. She's worked with many brands, including Microsoft, Verizon with myself, Samsung, Best Buy, Lenovo, Netgear, Chevrolet, done a little bit of everything. And she's also being tagged as an influencer, which I also tag myself as. And she's working on the back end to help with some of the social media campaigns. So please welcome Robin Wright.
Hi.
She's
I
there.
said-
Through the miracle of phones. We were a little worried there for a second.
I'm here. I promise.
Good. So how are you today, Robin?
I'm good, Marv. How are you?
I'm
and hi,
very
Jim.
well.
Hi. How are things in old St. Louis today?
They're a little chilly this morning,
Yeah.
but we're going to get up to about 60 today, so it'll
Yeah.
be nice.
When is Ted Drew's opening up for the season?
You know what? I don't know. I'm one of the few people that is not a Ted Drews fan. I'm sorry. I don't know that information.
You don't like frozen custard? Shame on you.
I know. I'm a bad St. Louisan. I know.
Oh, dear.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are going to be visiting the outdoor ice cream locations here for a while either. So
Let's try again. How do you think the Cardinals are going to do this year?
They're going to win the World Series.
Oh, of course.
of course, that's
Great
spoken
team.
like a true fan. Yes. That's got to be tough though with Kansas City doing real well. I'm sure you have some family members and friends that got to go either way, huh?
Oh no, they're all Cardinals.
Really?
But we like when we have that interstate World Series when it's the Cardinals and the Royals. And
Right.
stuff. So
Is it
that would be nice.
The I-70, is that what it's called?
Yes. Yes.
Got it. It's they're both hot right now, so anything could happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick things off a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about some other things down the road, blogging and some other things that we're both kind of working in. But we thought we'd start things out just talking about some tech news that's flying around today. I was going to talk about the new iPad or the iPhone announcement, the Apple stuff coming out later today. That should be starting anytime, like in the next hour or so, shouldn't it, Robin?
Yeah, it should be starting pretty soon. I know I'm seeing a lot of people getting ready to live tweet and broadcast from there and about it and that. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and to see if it's going to be as amazing as what some of their past ones have been. They seem to be a little lackluster lately, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I did hear that they're discussing, or from all the talk show hosts, they're all saying they're going to release a new iPhone or talk about a new iPhone today, the 6E SE, and back to a 4-inch screen, I think, is what they're talking.
I heard the smaller screen size, and I guess I like the big phones,
Me too.
but I see that there's some people who like the small phones. I think as I get older, though, I like bigger and bigger. I can see the screen a little better.
Jump the font up and have a bigger screen, more real estate.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, so they're talking about that. I think they're going to release a new iPad, is what they're talking about today. And I don't know what else you've heard. I've heard just a few.
I've heard some new bands for the Apple Watch, maybe some accessories, other accessories for that. That's the other thing that I've heard today.
You're right, though. It does kind of lose some of the luster it had even 2 and 3 years ago when Steve was out there. Mr.
Right.
Jobs was running the show. He always had something big and brand new to push, and right now Apple's kind of in a holding pattern with all the other mobile companies coming up behind them.
Yeah, there's not as many innovations in their products, it doesn't seem lately. They're not. It's not something brand new and exciting. It's just another new phone. There might be some tweaks to it internally, things like that, but they're not. It's not just something like, oh my gosh, I have to run out and get that. And that's why when Steve Jobs used to do these, everybody was so excited, and we had to go and get the latest and greatest.
Now, have you heard anything about the new headquarters when they're moving in? I know they're talking about the big spaceship. They've been building on it, and I've seen some drone footage of them flying over the new system. But have you heard when they're going to open that up to bring in some people?
I have no idea on that one. I didn't know anything about it, to be honest, because I follow a little bit on Apple just because I need to for what I do, but I'm not an Apple user.
Right.
So it's, I don't follow everything. If you ask me more about Microsoft, I'd tell you more about that.
Oh, we'll get to that. We got to talk about Microsoft a little bit.
Yeah.
It looks like the big announcement is going to be noon our time, so
Noon
about
our
an
time.
hour from now.
Oh, perfect. We'll wrap up our show, and then that'll work out great.
Yeah.
So the other big one that we've seen in the last couple of days is Twitter turned 10 years old. Was it over the weekend, I think?
Yep.
So that's crazy. I mean, it's hard to believe that platform's been around for 10 years. I actually joined. It started in 2006. I came on in 2008. I don't know when you joined, Robin.
I joined in 2008 as well.
Right.
And Jack, the founder of Twitter, is actually a St. Louisan.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Huh. Does he get back and speak at any of the events or anything like that?
He does. He comes into town, and he does a lot. UMSL is one of the colleges here, and they do a lot on social media, online marketing, things like that. And he's come back and spoke to them a few times, and I'm sure he's back here more often than I'm even aware of.
Sure.
But, yeah, he does come back here to his roots, and he seems to like St. Louis. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad he comes back because it's always good for those guys to come back to their home cities and speak and try to energize the base a little bit, especially when they're not, San Francisco or New York. So
right, and Uber is another one. They are opening a headquarters here in St. Louis, and their founders have some roots here in St. Louis as well, and so they're moving a base here to St. Louis, and it's going to bring a couple hundred jobs to town.
Wow, that's a big deal. So,
St. Louis has been quite a big spot lately, an incubator kind of city for a lot of tech companies. They're offering a lot of tax advantages. There's a lot of free resources for businesses who are wanting to start out. So I'm pretty proud of us for getting in this technology market because it's not something you would think of, especially for a Midwest city like St. Louis.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in the Midwest now. We're kind of centrally located. I know, Marlowe's been involved with the autonomous vehicle corridor and some other things.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to bring that up into the North Dakota range. So we'll continue our conversation with Robin Wright in just a little bit. We'll talk about blogging, some influencers, and some other things coming up on Super Talk.
Right now, 34.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marv Dorner, in for the Guru of Geek today on the Tech Ranch Radio Show, and joined by Robin Wright from St. Louis.
Hi, everybody.
So, Robin, we kind of hinted a little bit at influencer marketing, at the first group here, and I've worked with Verizon Wireless, obviously, since we've worked together, and I've done some stuff with Ford Motor, a little bit with Beats Audio. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what influencer marketing is and how it works.
Okay, so influencer marketing is taking a company is working with people that they identify as having an influence over others online and social media. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have 1 million followers someplace, but you have to have a really good interaction with the followers that you do have, and they look at you as someone who is an authority on something. They trust your opinion. And for brands, you have to find people that fit the market you're looking to reach.
Right.
And it's nice to have a combination depending on the size of your campaign and your budget, getting a little bit of everybody. So you want someone who does have a lot of numbers because that doesn't hurt. You want someone more in the middle, which is, I think, the base of influencers. They have a decent following and really trustworthy. And then you even want some of the people who have a little bit smaller, but they're willing to work really hard for you.
Sure.
And I think having a combination of those is really important.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a really good mix too. You know, especially just looking at the Verizon program that we're involved with. You know, that there's people that have large blog followings. You know, I come from a group that has, you know, I bring a lot of Twitter followers over with 153 or whatever thousand. You know, followers with that, Facebook pages, websites, everything that could possibly drive online traffic. It seems like you guys are really looking for a good mix and somebody to have maybe one really strong method, but being able to manipulate everything a little bit.
Right, and it depends on whatever program you're working with. With Verizon, like I said, we're trying to promote the wireless lifestyle, basically. Mm-hmm. And you want to look at people from across the board of what they can bring to you. So you want, you know, moms, and you want millennials, and you want senior citizens, and you want people who are really into tech, people who are really into food, people who are into fashion, just everything across the board. And like you said, all the different platforms. We have some people that their big thing is Instagram. They're great at it,
Sure.
and they can tell their story on there. Others are better at Twitter or Facebook or Blab or any of these different things. And it's nice to have that big variety. That way you're reaching more people.
Right. And you know, you mentioned Instagram. I've tried Instagram so many times, and I keep thinking this is going to be the one. You know, I'm gonna finally put some effort into this, and we're going to take a lot of pictures, and we're going to do this. And then I get busy doing all kinds of other stuff, and I go back to Twitter. So you know,
I totally understand that. I'm like that with Tumblr
mm-hmm.
and Snapchat. I struggle with the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. As somebody who is an influencer or wants to work towards that, you need to, you know, at least have your foot in the door on all these different channels and have some sort of presence, but really focus on just 2 or 3 that you're really good at and can really get your story across. And that's what you need to do. You don't have to be everywhere and be so popular on every single channel.
Yeah, and that's probably the coolest thing about looking at our group that we're involved with. You know, I come from the outdoorsman, techie, you know, that kind of group. There's so many people that are mommy bloggers and DJs and everything else.
Yeah. Marv, let me break in for a moment here. Robin, bear with me here. We have an Amber Alert to report. Just been issued for a 15-year-old girl named Amy Marie Messerly, who is believed to have been abducted or otherwise in danger. This came out of Parshall, North Dakota. Last seen in a vehicle traveling south on Highway 37, south of Parshall. Described as a Native American female with brown hair and brown eyes. Authorities say she may be with Larry Marlin Fox, who may be driving a silver 2004 Cadillac CTS. The license plate KPE 22A. You can turn to our website and get an update, get an Amber Alert in effect involving a girl from the Parshall area. And you can follow up on the story at the website at supertalk1270.com. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And also, you know, all that information's available on your smartphones,
yes.
Everything else. So so get as much information as you can and help this young lady get back to her family. So going back to a little bit the discussion with you, Robin, you know, I got to host a chat. You know, one of the methods used on the influencer program is the Twitter chats, and I was blown away by the interaction. You know, going in there and thinking, all right, I'm going to get a few people talking back to me, and I can interact with this group, and then the floodgates open. So, how do you I've known you've hosted several of these things. What's the best way that you've seen to interact with this large group of people that, if somebody just decides they want to become an influencer or start an influencer program on their brand, and then all of a sudden they get this huge interaction with their group?
So on Twitter specifically, for Twitter chats and Twitter parties, they're called both of those things. Mm-hmm. I think what you want to do is you want to inform people, you want to entertain them, and you don't want to come across as a commercial. So that's one of the things we've done with Verizon. What you're talking about is we've been doing this for several years now.
Yep.
Every Friday afternoon we do it, and we're consistent. We have the same hashtag every week. We promote it, and then we get to know the people. So we have a couple of hosts that we rotate, and then there's a team of us that are always there. And our regular people know who we are. The new people, we try to watch for them and interact with them. And the biggest thing is give them some takeaways. So we're talking about technology on those shows, and you want to give them ways that they can use their devices, what they can do, how to do certain things. And it gets a little more complicated, in tech because all devices are different. But we can certainly give them quite a few tips. And then we also are happy to talk to people after the actual chat and give them more specific advice if they need to. And Gene Parks, Geek Babe, and I do that quite a bit with our followers on Twitter and on Facebook. And they know to come to us. And that's where the influencer part comes in, is that we've established ourselves and they know that, hey, I have a question about my phone. Who should I ask? And they'll go, okay, I'm going to send Robin a tweet, or I'm going to, send her a private message on Facebook, whatever it is. And I think that it's that interaction that you need to have on a regular basis, because that's what social media is about, is being social.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I definitely saw as a spillover, both from hosting the chat and just from taking part. It was crazy the amount of people that just come to you with, I'd like these sort of features. Which phone do you recommend? Or, I'd like to do this with my phone. And is there an app that you've used in the past or that you've been able to do? And that's really cool, because that's, somebody from anywhere USA that comes and, just reaches out either via the hashtag or directly to a user like myself or yourself and wants input on a device that they could get anywhere. I mean, they could just go to Google and get whatever they want.
But it's a real person that they connect with. And this applies across the board, not just technology. Whatever your brand is, it can be food, it can be baby stuff, it can be hunting stuff, whatever you want. And you form that same kind of relationship and give your users and participants that actual takeaway information and be fun with it. People like fun. We don't want to be bored when we're online. We want to have fun.
Yeah, and I was really blown away by the mommy blogger community.
Right.
That was something
I have to correct you on something, Marv.
Oh, okay.
Mommy blogger is not a term that we generally use any longer. It's considered a negative, and the reason why is actually, and mostly because the Wall Street Journal has done a very a big disservice to that term. And every time they write about it, they put it in the entertainment or lifestyle section rather than technology or business.
The fluff section.
See, I meant it as an endearing term.
Yeah, so lifestyle blogger is a better term for that group of people.
Absolutely.
Mom blogger, if you must, but mommy is the one. Let's take that word out, okay?
Agreed. Okay, I can live with that.
Happy talk.
But, I was still blown away by that community. I just couldn't believe, obviously not being a mom and not having a child for the last.
Mom?
I'm not.
Oh.
And my daughter's going to turn 22, so it's been a while. I was just blown away by just the amount of people that are involved in that and their influence on decisions and other information that's being passed.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that with the stuff with the Wall Street Journal that was so aggravating all these years, is because that group of mom bloggers really has been influential in influencer marketing and creating programs and, brands figuring out how to use influencers. That's one of the biggest groups out there.
Absolutely.
And we've really, because women are generally storytellers, we like to talk. And we were really good at it, and brands were trying to figure it out. But, you know, when companies like Wall Street Journal produce information that doesn't give us credit for that, it's very disheartening.
Agreed, Robin. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about some blogging coming up here in just a little bit when we come back to the Tech Ranch.
Right now, 34.
Super Talk 1270, home of the Bismarck Bobcats and high school sports. Listen online or anywhere on the Radio Pup app. Super Talk 1270.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Tech Ranch. We're talking with Robin Wright, and we talked about some lifestyle blogging a little bit ago. See, I got it right this time, Jim. You didn't think I'd get it. But you know, on the blogging side, you're incredibly active on the blogging side. I'm starting to become more active, but you know, what are some of the challenges that you've seen getting started and getting to the point that you're at right now?
I think some of the biggest challenges is that everyone wants it to be perfect to start with, and that's really less important than actually getting the content out there.
Sure.
And so be consistent with your content, and whatever your time frame that you want to do. I do a post every day generally. Sometimes I miss. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But even if you want to do once a week or twice a week, whatever it is, be consistent with that. And you can tweak all the little fun stuff and how it looks, everything in the background as you go along with it, and as you grow your audience. You see what they like, what they don't like, things like that. And then promoting your own blog. Everything should point back to your blog. That's your house.
Right.
It's where you live, and everything should point back to that address.
Now, do you use anything to schedule blog posts, or a calendar to just kind of remind you of what you're going to talk about tomorrow and next Thursday, or is it just a kind of a wing?
Yeah, I have a general editorial calendar that I use. That's just my own internal one. CoSchedule is a great tool to use for an editorial calendar. Lets you do a lot if you're working with multiple people on the same blog. For me, I like it, but it's Robin's world, so it's only me. I'm the one talking there, so I don't need to have all those features. But there's some great ones out there. And just to have an editorial calendar, even if it's a notepad, piece of paper, and write down, you know, on Mondays I'm going to do this, or Wednesdays I'm doing this, or even themes, kind of plan ahead. If you're going to talk about holiday, you know, things, plan ahead of when you're going to do that. And that way you can work ahead as well and get a couple of blog posts that are ready to go, and you just schedule them to go live when you want to.
Yeah, and you mentioned CoSchedule, and those guys are based right here in Bismarck. Which is,
I did not know that.
Awesome. I've known Justin and Garrett for a long time, and you know, it's amazing what they've done with that tool.
Yeah, and it really is a great tool. Like I said, I've used it for quite some time. It's just because I am a singular person that it's not as effective for me in certain ways to pay for the service, because that's one thing about blogging too. You have to find at some point tools that you're going to actually pay to use.
Right.
And don't be afraid to spend the money on them. I mean, when you're starting out, you're not making any money. You got to really kind of, you know, be even more particular. But don't be afraid to start using tools that you pay for. There's a lot of low-cost ones out there now. And I really encourage people to buy or subscribe to things that are going to save them time as they move along.
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, I think companies forget. You know, we talk about this as a lifestyle blogger or as an influencer, to make sure we have a platform to do this on. And I think, you know, you're starting to see Google and some of the search engines put a little bit more weight on content instead of loading it with keywords and coming in with the, you know, all this other stuff that you can kind of backload the system with. And by having great content, it's being searched and it's being indexed and it's being pointed back at your site. And eventually you bring a certain weight with your own information that points at your site, and I think that's a big deal. It
is, and that's what like Google authorship was supposed to be doing, And it's still in the background, kind of, that Google does that. It's just not as prominent as when they first brought it out. But it really still is important to have all those things pointing to you and be spread out and have quality links to your content from other people. And so what that means is there used to be, back in the day, you know, on GeoCities and, you know, all these freebie pages, there was like these link farms, and it was you could put your banner up and everybody has a link. And it was, at the time, that's what worked, but those kind of things don't work anymore. And you're actually given a hit by Google and other search engines when you have non-quality backlinks now.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing people don't realize when they're out there paying a company to do their search engine marketing or their SEO, their optimization, and they kind of forget, you know, you can actually hurt yourself a little bit with some of this information. So to put good content on that is pointing at your site and pointing back to your company is a big deal. And you know, in the case of us doing influencer marketing, pointing back out towards whichever company we're doing business with, that's the whole point, is to drive quality content back to their site to pump up their brand.
Right. And there's a reciprocal effect for the influencers as well, is when you start working with a brand and other brands see that, hey, look what they're doing for them. Mm-hmm. It may not be their rival, but it may be something similar, something that seems to fit with you. And then they may approach you, and that's how it kind of snowballs, and you start getting more and more work.
Right. And you kind of touched on something a little bit with the liability issue. I think the FTC kind of cracked down a little bit last year with making sure that when you are doing some influencer marketing or working with other people, you know, that you're somehow tagging that information as a not a commercial, but an advertisement. And so that's definitely something to be aware of, yeah.
You have to disclose anytime you've received some sort of perk, basically, whether it be a cash payment, a product for free, you know, something. You need to let your audience know. And it gets a little confusing. Some people get frustrated because we're like, it feels like we have to disclose more in social media and on our blogs than what they do on TV or the radio or in magazines. But the reason why is because the internet is still fairly new. I mean, I know it's been around for a while, but this whole thing, advertising, and that is different online, and people are not aware of what's an ad and what's not. And that's why there's so much emphasis on disclosure and not trying to hide it from people. So they just want consumers, it's there to protect the consumers, really, so they know what is sponsored material and what is not.
Yeah, you can look at a Facebook post and it's tough to tell sometimes whether it's from a brand or whether it's somebody just posting something that liked it. And
that's where the socialness comes into it. That's why influencer marketing actually works so well, is because it's people talking about things.
Right.
It's people talking about things they use in their life, and so whether it's sponsored or not, they're telling a story, and that's what makes it work so well.
Yeah, and I'm seeing just amazing things, not from our group, the Verizon group, but the other brands that I've either been associated with or follow. It's amazing when you can tell when they're doing something like this, because it gets amplified big time across a certain group of people. But it's if they're doing it right, they're finding that wide swath of people that somebody like me who's doing something technical or doing something outdoors. You got grandkids coming and all kinds of other stuff.
They're here. The grandbabies are here.
They are. They made it to the house. That's good.
No, they're not here at the house yet. They're still in the hospital. But yes, they've arrived in the world.
Good.
They've been born. But hopefully the end of this week, we're hoping.
Perfect. Well, that's awesome. That's good news. So, back to the blogging a little bit. Is there some advanced tools that maybe a brand that's been or a company that's been blogging for a while and they're just not seeing some lift? Is there anything that you can recommend on their SEO? Or, we talked about CoSchedule a little bit, to getting a little bit better at scheduling out posts. But is there anything that maybe we can do to kind of boost things up a little bit?
I think it's important for them to promote their content and reuse it. as they can, which that is a good thing to schedule out. So once you have a blog post, you can take that content and repurpose it over and over again by sharing it out on the different networks. And images are a great way to do that, or short form video. But make sure you use a tool like PicMonkey is the one I use all the time to edit my photos.
Sure.
There is several other ones out there. Canva is another one. I'm sorry?
I use Canva a lot.
Yeah, and Canva for Work is a paid one, but it will magically create the right size images for everything. But don't just think about resizing the same image. Try to use different images on different places. And that spreads it out a little bit more. Change the wording up. Don't use the same wording for every time you promote something. And then you can even go on Blab or Periscope or Snapchat, any of those, and tell people what's on your blog. Tell them what's on there and send them back to it that way even. So just keep repurposing. Do a lot of evergreen content when you can, but also you want timely things as well.
So do you have a favorite platform that you've used in the past or that you're currently working on? WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, anything like that?
I'm a WordPress person. I started out on Blogger many years ago. That's where most of us started, I think.
Yep.
And then I moved to WordPress. I would say WordPress is really the way to go right now. There's so many options, so many themes and styles and plugins for it that you can literally do anything. Unless you're super, super geeky and want to do something like Drupal or something like that, I would say most people would want to go with WordPress.
Now, you mentioned Tumblr a little bit ago. Is that something you've kind of dabbled in and want to continue doing, or what's your thoughts on Tumblr?
I tried Tumblr, and like I said, it just doesn't click with my brain very well. I can read it, but using it, it's just not my thing. But there are a lot of people, and there's actually a lot of millennials still that are using Tumblr and doing it quite effectively. So it's, again, look at the blogs that you're already reading yourself and what sparks your interest, what format you seem to like, and then send an email to the blogger and ask them, hey, what are you using? What format you're on, and just ask them questions. Most bloggers will be happy to answer you.
I agree, and we'll talk a little bit about some podcasting, some other things coming up on the Tech Wrench.
Right Now 39.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Tech Ranch, the podcast. I was going to talk about podcasting.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, well, we were going to talk about podcasting, so that's where that came out. This show is available, actually, on a podcast,
Yes.
so you can get that through iTunes, I believe, and the Blueberry Network.
Yep.
So take advantage of that. I actually have it on Pocket Casts.
And we'll have it on the Super Talk website in a few hours at supertalk1270.com.
Okay, we can do that, and we can share that everywhere.
Well, yeah.
My guest today is Robin Wright, who is joining us, and she's an influencer. She's a podcaster. She's a
Not
blogger.
the actress.
She's a little bit it could be.
But, well, I was going to say she's really hot in her own right.
I married Mr. Wright, though.
Oh.
See, it all works out. So,
but
Robin,
I am not a podcaster.
well, you do
you're
some
not?
stuff on Blog or on Blab. So
Yes, I do. Yes. If you want to count that, then I'm a podcaster.
Yeah, and
but
if you talk to our personal friend Marty McPadden, this qualifies. So you've kind of jumped on Blab really early on and kind of ran with it a little bit, and it's a really cool platform. Those that don't know a lot about Blab, it's an online either through an iTunes or an iPhone or online through your desktop. Basically, video sharing network where you can get 4 of your friends together and talk about whatever you want, and then hundreds and thousands of people can come in and interact through the chat room. What's been your experience? I know you're hosting a couple of shows on Blab now, Robin. Have you seen this kind of take off a little bit?
I have, and we're it's grown and grown and grown. It's a very interesting platform. Lots of changes still happening because it actually still is in beta.
Yep.
But it is, a lot of podcasters have flocked to Blab because they're recording the video to go along with their audio.
Mm-hmm.
Blab sends you a nice recording, either audio or full video and audio that you can repurpose, embed, reuse, do whatever you want with. And the interaction is what is the best part about it, is that you're seeing people live. It's not just text-based. You can get people, you can see their faces, their reactions to things, and you can change the people up easily. It's kind of like Google Hangouts was, but it's technically a lot easier in general, I think, for people.
Yeah, and it's social. I mean, the Hangouts are kind of locked down to whoever you invite to join in a little bit, but this Blab session
is all. There's no locked Blabs. They are all public, so that's something that everyone needs to be aware of. But you don't have to record it, but it still is the non-recorded ones when they're live. They're still open to the public, so that's important for people to know.
Now, have you seen a limit, or do you know if there's a limit of people that can actually view this at any one time, or is it unlimited?
I have not seen it. I've not seen anybody break it yet. So there's been some that have had, I think, in the 4 digits, over 1,000. And for people listening, some people might go, "That's a really low number for social media," but the difference is the interaction is much higher on Blab. So that ratio, that percentage is going to be a lot better on Blab. So don't worry if the numbers are lower because, again, you can repurpose the content as well.
Yeah, you can share it amongst your other social media platforms, and the cool part is these are people that actually had to come to you and
yes.
actually log into the system and go find you either on their phone or on their desktop, which is different from the social media aspect where you're just kind of broadcasting that, and they do have to be following you or somehow looking for you, but you're bringing people to your Blab session because you do want them to be an active participant and either be liking or voting people up and actually working with that internal group. It's amazing the amount of people I've even seen either on the Verizon Blabs or we've done some stuff here at Super Talk on this show as well on the Blab session, and just to see the number of people that are interacting with it is incredible.
Yeah, I really have been amazed by it, and I think just being able to talk to that many people, whether or not they come on camera or off, but I would encourage people who are going to try and use Blab, and you want at least one other person with you. It's better with at least 2 people on screen. Otherwise, it becomes Periscope, and you don't. That's a different platform. It has its own pluses and minuses. But encouraging, if you want to interview someone, most Blabs they typically schedule them for about an hour. You interview someone for a half hour and then open up the seats and let people come on screen and answer questions live for them, and it really gets the audience very involved.
Yeah, and they're a lot of fun, actually. I've been on a couple of your shows and several others, and just to be able to talk to people about whatever questions you might have is incredible. You can interact directly with that person instead of getting an email or an impersonal. It may seem like they're personal, sending out a Facebook message or something like that, but actually speaking with somebody and seeing their reaction, and being on there with other people, either reacting plus or minus to it. It's a great platform.
They're old school emojis. Instead of typing in colon and a parentheses, you actually see someone smile.
Right.
And it's nice. That's old school emoji.
Yeah, it's almost like calling somebody. Who does that anymore, right?
Yeah. I know. That's why I tell everybody. I'm like, that phone that you have in your hand, you can actually make phone calls on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can send voice over that back both directions and actually speak with the person. It's weird. There's a lot of millennials and other folks that probably haven't done a lot of that over the last 10 years, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and my son is 21, and he prefers text-based with me, so he communicates even at home or wherever he's at. he sends me text messages, or over Facebook he does quite a bit too. But that's how he likes to communicate, and I'm okay with that. We have some great conversations on text, and that's okay. That's what works for him. So.
Yep. Whatever works, and that's part of the best part about having some of these technology devices in your pocket and on you at all times is, some of the negatives too is you're always accessible, but you can communicate with just about anybody anywhere at any time, and it's
all over the world. It's incredible.
Right.
I mean, you think back to when we were growing up, and even within your local, if you're in a metro area and stuff, some of the calls were long distance, and you had to pay extra for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you call out of state or out of a country, it was outrageous. And now you can almost reach just about anyone on this planet if they have an internet connection.
Yep. My daughter's going to Spain this summer, and we're trying to figure out ways for her to utilize a Wi-Fi connection to make as many phone calls as she could possibly want. And
my nephew just came back from Spain.
Oh, really?
He was just there, so we'll have to talk later about that.
So yeah, there's plenty of ways to interact, and this is just one great way to do that. So, Robin, thank you for joining us today. And could you just tell everybody how to get a hold of you if they have questions or would like to interact with the Robin's World?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me today, too. It's been an honor to be here. You can reach me on my blog, which is robins.world, and I'm Robin with a Y, ROBYNS.world. There's no .com. The world is the end. That's my end of the domain. You can actually find me at Robin's World without the period in there on Twitter, Facebook, Blab, Pinterest, Instagram. I'm everywhere under that name. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Isn't it awesome how you can just give out all that information and it all ties together?
Yep.
And the same with me. You can find me at BeBusy. It's BeBizzy on Twitter, and the BeBusy.com website, on Facebook, everywhere else. And we are definitely open to having anybody come in and ask any questions that they might have, and we would be more than happy to answer them. So, again, thanks, Robin, for joining us. Any parting words, anything you want to get in at the end?
I want to tell everybody to be social on social media. That's the most important part. Be social.
That's the part that people forget. We sit and watch Facebook, and we watch Twitter, and we do all this stuff.
Be nice to each other.
And nobody interacts unless it's something angry.
Yeah.
So just be social and have a good time. Jim, thanks for running the controls for me.
Very much a pleasure, sir.
And thank you for everybody for participating with the Tech Ranch. We'll talk to you next time.